Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty startling idea that a new kind of feudalism is quietly being built all around us in this age of AI. We're going to unpack what that actually means for our jobs, for our financial security, and really for our freedom. So, let's get right into it.
So let's start with this quote. It's a really chilling thought, right? And the most shocking part isn't the number, it's who it's aimed at. This isn't about people struggling on minimum wage. This is about the highly paid, highly skilled elite of today's tech economy. How on earth can someone making that kind of money be so close to the edge?
Well, to really get it, we have to talk about a Chinese student who was living in Seattle. He went by the name Lao A, and he came up with this viral concept that's totally changing how people see their economic reality. He called it the kill line.
So Lao A borrowed a term from video games, Zansha Sen, which basically means kill line. It's that point where an enemy is weak enough to be finished off with one final blow. He argued that for a lot of people, even those with seemingly secure, high-paying jobs, a single crisis, a layoff, a big medical bill, could push them past that kill line and into total financial collapse. His videos just exploded, and he got coverage everywhere, from the New York Times to The Economist.
And look, this is not just some abstract internet theory. Let's take a real-world example, Amazon's Project Dawn. This wasn't some minor restructuring. We're talking 30,000 employees let go. And a lot of them were senior managers, product leads, the very people earning those $300,000 salaries. They found out the hard way that their fancy job title was no shield at all. They had a kill line, and all it took was one executive decision to trigger it.
So what's really going on here? These stories, they all point to a massive shift in how our economy works. And to make sense of it, we need a new map, a new way of seeing the world we're living in. And a really powerful concept for this is something called AI cloud feudalism. Remember that old idea that the internet would make the world flat? Create a level playing field for everyone? Well, that turned out to be a total fantasy. The digital world isn't some open, public ocean. It's actually a collection of vast, privately owned territories, and each one has its own incredibly powerful master. So, at the very top of this new feudal pyramid, you've got the algorithmic lords. Think of them as the new kings and queens. We're talking about companies like Google, Amazon, Meta. They don't just sell you a product, they own the digital land itself. The cloud servers, the social networks, the search algorithms. They own the very ground beneath our digital feet. And if they're the lords, what does that make us? Well, this is the tough part. We're the digital serfs. It doesn't matter if you're an employee with a six-figure salary working inside these companies or just a regular user scrolling through their apps. We all live and work in their digital manners. We create the value, we provide the data, we make their kingdoms run. And just like the serfs of old, we pay a tax to our lords. But we don't pay with grain or livestock, we pay with something way more valuable in today's world, our data. Every single click, every search, every like, every second of your attention is collected as a data tithe. And it's what makes these lords richer and more powerful every single day. Now, this new feudal system hasn't just changed our social structure, it has completely rewritten the basic rules of economics. All those old models we learned about how value is created, you can pretty much throw them out the window. For decades, business strategy was all about the smiling curve. The idea was that the most value was at the two ends of a product's life, R&D at the beginning and marketing and sales at the end. The actual manufacturing in the middle, that was the low profit part. But AI has shattered that smile and replaced it with a new and frankly much scarier model, the U-Sheng curve. See, the U-Sheng curve looks totally different. All the profit, all the power, it's all concentrated at two gigantic peaks. On one side, you have the technical lords. These are the ones who own the core AI models and the computing infrastructure. On the other side, you have the order lords, the ones who own the giant platforms and control access to all of us, the users. And everybody else, every other business, creator, and worker, we're all squeezed down into that low-value, high-risk valley in between them. This chart just lays it out so clearly. We've gone from an economy where the core asset was a factory to one where it's a compute cluster. And the revenue model? It's not about selling a product for a one-time profit anymore. Now it's about charging algorithmic rent and API taxes just for the privilege of existing in their digital kingdom. Okay, so once we understand this new map of the world, we have to face a really tough question. Where do we fit in? And even more importantly, what can we do to change our position in this system and actually protect ourselves? And that really brings us to the single most important question for your own security in this new era. In this digital manner that we all live in, are you an asset in some lord's portfolio, or are you a sovereign subject? Because the difference between those two things, it's everything.
So what's the difference? An asset is predictable. They're dependent on the Lord's platform. They play by the rules, and their behavior can be easily tracked, predicted, and harvested for profit. They're just a line on a spreadsheet. But a subject is sovereign. They don't just accept the rules. They build their own barriers, their own systems. They're resilient. They're unpredictable. And our goal has to be to make that shift from being a predictable asset to becoming a sovereign subject. So, the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you make that transition? You start by building a fortress, not one with stone walls, but a digital moat to protect yourself and your own independence. Building this moat isn't about some complicated tech secret. It really boils down to 4 fundamental strategies. Taking back control over your own data. Consciously resisting the algorithm's attempts to control what you think. Deliberately developing skills that are uniquely human. And finally, strengthening your ties to the real, physical world. So what does that look like in practice? For data sovereignty, it means you don't keep all your valuable work or memories on one platform. You diversify. You keep offline backups. For cognitive resistance, it means you actively seek out different opinions. Here's a good rule of thumb. If your social media feed feels a little too perfect, a little too comfortable, that's a huge red flag that you're being farmed. And then there are the AI-proof traits. Focus on things AI is terrible at, like deep empathy, complex moral reasoning, and real intuition. And finally, get rooted in the physical world. Nurture your face-to-face friendships. Learn a hard skill, something you can do with your hands.
Now, it's really important to think of this moat as more than just a defense. It's not a wall to hide behind. It is your survival kit. It is your escape plan for when, not if, the system changes, the rules get rewritten, or you suddenly find yourself on the wrong side of that kill line. Because at the end of the day, real freedom in this age of AI cloud feudalism isn't about finding a comfortable spot inside one lord's kingdom. It's about having the sovereignty, the skills, and the resources to be able to walk away. It's about making sure that when things go south, you have something to escape with, so you remain in control of your own destiny. So I guess the only question left is, are you building your moat?